technically, unless I finish the other one first. So this is episode 10. um, and welcome back. Thank you for coming. Ooh, today let's start with we gotta remember to start with what we sponsored by. Today I'm sponsored by a raw cone with trap house weed, as well as a big ass glass of Pinot Grigio.
Word. I am sponsored today by Big Chief Vapes with a Blue Dream strain.
Oh, that sounds fancy. Now let's
Quite.
start. Caucasian
Mm-hmm.
money. Exactly. Okay. So I guess we'll start off with we try to figure out the future flow of the podcast, I guess. So we're gonna be experimenting, so just bear with us. So we're gonna skip the high moments this week and we're gonna just go to tweets. And since thing two is still on a hiatus, I'll just share one of mine. I just only found one. And I just recently seen it. I don't think it was like posted that long ago. So it's from rapper TK, and he tweeted this yesterday at 6:27 p.m. Said, "I'm locked up with the hash slinging slasher." And I don't really know what that means, but it was funny. So there we go. And free him. I mean, even though he's a child murderer, free him. He makes bops.
They be slapping for
Dead ass.
not the first time, won't be the last,
Right.
Just
Okay.
just give us the bops.
And that's, I mean, also, if Lil Wayne was like recording on MP3s in prison, like, TK could dead ass. They could sneak that nigga like an iPhone or something.
I was just about to say that. Ain't nobody sneaking him a phone. He not
Like, Steve Lacy was making albums on his iPhone. Like, TK, let's do something.
that shit's at the Smithsonian.
Yo, I need to go see it.
Be fire. That'd be dope as fuck to do that.
Okay. So, time for a hotel. We into it already. And it is my turn to share a homegirl's hoe story. Oh, okay. So let's preface this by saying we are open to anybody listening. If y'all want to send us an email or send us something and y'all want y'all hoe story read, my homegirl, my homeboy, y'all are all welcome. The email is highbypod@gmail.com. Just put in the subject hotel and let us know if you want to be anonymous. Whatever, we will share your whole story. Okay? Just putting it out there. And we're going to keep saying it from here on out. All right. So
nothing tasteful.
Nothing tasteful. We want vocabulary. We want details.
The bombacity.
We want sweat rolling down the hairy butthole.
We want to smell like we're there. We want to feel like we can taste it.
We want you to tell us about the twerk wind.
Yes. Quite. Who farted first and why?
And was it a vaginal or anal fart? That's very key.
Did y'all keep going?
Also, were questions asked?
Did y'all laugh?
Okay, we just say shit at this point. Ooh, let me take a drink of my drink. She drunken, got drunk in love. All right. So this month, for my host tale, I'm gonna talk about what my homegirl told me. So she has been on a, little dry spell And so she went back to the hellscape that is the apps and met this person on Tinder. Um, they're talking for a little while and decided to link up. The link up was cute or whatever, and then I ended with like a little makeout session. So then the week went by. They're like, okay, let's like meet up during the weekend. And so yeah, the weekend comes. She gets him to get an Uber to his place. She goes over there. They chilling. He has like weed growing in his house, apparently. All these like different type of dabs and shit. She never did a dab before. She was like, fuck it, let's do it. Um, some elite ass smoking machine. I don't even she don't even remember and I don't remember what it was called. We tried to look it up, did not compute. Um, so yeah. So then he turns on Thames and is gonna ask, "Oh, do you know Thames or do you know who this is?" And she's like, "Yeah." I mean, who don't know Thames at this point? But they get into, and like she takes her pants off, and he starts kissing from her ankle all the way up. And I forgot to preface this by saying that she was under the impression that he invited her over by saying like, "Oh, I want to give you head and smoke you up." So she was under the impression that it was going to be that, you know? So yeah, so then yeah, the kissing up the body or whatever, it was cute. The makeout was like it was giving. Um so then we get to the head. And she said it was nothing. Like she felt nothing really. She tried to direct the um the person with like words and like kind of like moving head like, oh, like hit this, do this, like, but it more felt like I don't even know how to describe it, like, when you flick your tongue out like a frog trying to pick up a fly, like it felt like that. Yeah.
Ew.
And it was like it was not giving. So she was like, whatever, we could try to work with this because we could, if you just have a tongue, like, well, it should be like, nice and soft, but you found a way to make it hard, but we can work with that, baby. It's okay. So stop doing it. So she goes on, they're like making out again, and then he stands up. And then in honor of like fucking what's that nigga name? I was gonna say Woody Allen, but that's definitely not his name. What's the Flash name?
Who?
The Flash.
The Flash?
Oh,
Barry
Barry.
Allen.
Barry Allen.
In honor of
Barry. In honor of Barry Allen, this nigga pulls down his pants with the speed of God, honestly. Like if I would just I'm not on video to y'all listening, but I'm on video to thing too, so I'm gonna just show you, right? So pull down the pants. I'm not gonna funnel them down for real, but went like this, like
he slammed his pants down to like
yes,
with the swiftness.
yes,
Because he was primed and ready.
It was so unexpected that she was just like kind of shook, and also like I said, she never did a dab before. That shit was hitting, and then that shit was hitting. So then he like pauses, and she gets like a glimpse, and the penis. Y'all, I'm not one to shame size because I'm team motion in the ocean, but wow. That's all I'm gonna say is wow. So they both had just like a moment of reflection, and she told me in her mind all she heard was, "My life is a joke." And so
Oh my
Being,
god.
she had to like low key like stifle a laugh just at the irony of life. Just the irony. Not even at that. Just like just series of unfortunate events. So her being the asshole that she is, she goes, I thought this was just head. And he goes, oh, you right. So he dropped back down and tried to do it. But again, it was not giving. So it was just, it was
That's
a very,
embarrassing. That's
very awkward time for both people involved. And oh yeah, she also told me that right before that, oh no, I think it was like after that, like before he like pulled his pants up, but at that point they're like just going through like awkward motions, and she tried to like make out and like do stuff, but he was just not reciprocating, and it's like kind of like this unspoken thing in the air because she's like, you don't want to say that, but it's like also like she has fucking body, she has body, so
mm-hmm.
it's like there's no way, even if she did some like gymnastics, like standing on her head shit, like there was no way that that shit was gonna work. Um, so she was like trying to, like at least make out and like grind on top of him. She was like, it felt like just humping a mushroom pretty much. And yeah,
That sounds
right
like a
before
song.
like he pulled his pants up, she took a screenshot in her mind of just like the kind of, it was unerect penis and a little long thin drop of pre-cum coming down. And she just took a screenshot of it for her memories. And
She didn't want to
she has
delete
to
that.
keep it as a lesson. It's a lesson.
Mm.
The screen, you can see this is why they send unsolicited dick pics. This is why. So it's like at least before the thing continues. um so then yeah, she basically had him get her Uber back home. And yeah, she tried to like the day, or I think it was like not the day after, but like a couple days later, to like hit him up and like apologize, like trying to place the blame on her just because she felt a little bad about it. And she was just like, oh yeah, we just didn't talk about sex before, so didn't really know what to expect, and it was just like really overwhelming because she hadn't did it in a while, whatever. But I feel like they both knew what was up. And so it just fell off from there because where else was it gonna go? And yeah,
That's very
very
unfortunate
awkward.
for her.
I know, I would have hated to be her, but it's like
Yeah,
that's what happened to other people and not me.
right. My condolences to her.
Dead eyes. And that nigga, honestly, because he knew. It's like,
That's
you know what's even funnier? She told me that like that first time that they like when they were making out, she like rubbed her hand against like his pants, but like just like accidentally. So and then she felt like whatever, but just thought it was just like pants.
She said, oh, it's a candy. It's a candy in his pocket. It's some butterscotch.
So he texted her later and was like, "Oh, you playing?" And she was like, "What you mean?" He was like, "Oh, you felt me," and she didn't realize till after that he was dead the fuck serious.
That's hilarious.
Disclaimer. We don't want to shame people's genitals here. We are accepting people. But you just got to know that the body that you're working with, and you got to be honest with both yourself and who you want to be your partner.
You really do. There's a difference between physical size and then the size of your ego, or the size of your insecurities, and then that's when it becomes like some people could have that, and they're living their best life, and they know who they are beyond that, and they're great.
Right.
Some people they can't live past that, and that's unfortunate.
And
another thing is,
if you gonna have that not that it's a bad thing to have that, but you at least got to get the head right. Come on.
That's embarrassing. That's like
Come on.
that's a double homicide. That's like
That was that was suicide because that nigga knew exactly what the fuck was going on.
that's so silly. Why would you? That's like if you don't know how to drive, bitch. I would hope you know how to ride a bike. Like,
Come on.
like,
But I know because I'm like I feel like for a lot of women, sex is like the main dish. I mean, not sex. Head is the main dish.
mm-hmm.
So it's like they'll take the sex. The sex don't have to be all that, but the head is good. You're remembering the head, you know.
Yes.
So you really have to like. It takes a lot of self awareness. I feel like, and also everyone I fuck with, friend wise, I would hope, is not lying to these niggas and not gonna put on a show and not faking orgasms. We too old for that.
That's
So
embarrassing.
you're just gonna get embarrassed because baby, I'm not doing it. And my friends is not doing it either.
Yeah. Well, just say, listen. So I gotta go.
But the
It's
fucked
that.
up thing was like she didn't have he got her the Uber there, so he had to get it back.
Sis, this was like, yeah, I'm ready for my Uber now.
No, he was like he was like, oh, are you want me to get it for you? Like he knew, but she tried to salvage it, and she was like, okay, let's switch up the vibe. He said, from what? And she was like, it was so bad, yo. The secondhand
That's.
embarrassment had me like,
I'd be so confused. I would order myself one at that point. I'm like,
it was
I'm gonna
like
find a bus. I'm gonna find a train.
he was trying to bait her into saying that he had a little dick. I swear to God. I swear to God. He was
What
trying
if
to
that
bait
was
it.
secretly his thing? Like he was trying to be so bad so you could talk about how much of a shrimp he is, and then he's like, yeah. He's
Like
like,
his
what else?
king?
Yeah. He's like, oh
See,
yeah,
but
what
that's
else?
something that you have to get consent over. You can't just like, oh, I
But
haven't you have to tell somebody that.
what if he's a maniac and he wants the element of surprise, and that's why he be doing nonsense. So you gotta meet him with that same energy, right? Be like, yeah, like yeah, that
Yo,
was so bad, you little dick, nigga.
that's like, yo, nah, you gotta preface that. You can't come out the gate with that shit. Because you never know like the what's that word? You never know the reaction you're gonna get from somebody for real. So it's like you gotta test that for real, especially in sexual situations. You can't just like spring a kink on somebody.
You can't just throw that at somebody's face.
Right. Like you trying to set up a scenario to get humiliated on purpose. Like
Yo, it is wild.
but yes,
Oh my god.
that is the unfortunate. But honestly, if we're being for real, hilarious hotel. Because like she was like for it wasn't on no like feeling sad for herself where she was like, oh, this is a joke. My life is a joke. It was more like, yo, my life is a fucking joke. This is fucking hilarious. And I immediately, after she told me, I immediately asked her if I could put it on the show.
That's hilarious.
I've been saving it. But okay.
5 stars.
Let's move on. So now we're gonna talk about our main topic. We're shortening it up this week. And our main topic is gonna be we're gonna be talking about shame. I'm gonna put in that that little audio clip from fucking Game of Thrones when they had Cersei through the streets.
Shame. 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 Shame.
But yes, okay. So we're gonna talk about shame, and we haven't. I mean, we prepared a little bit, but we kind of just want to see where it goes, you know. I started by watching this TED Talk by, I don't know if anybody has heard of her, Brene Brown, but I think too has heard of her. Um, but yeah, she did a whole TED Talk about shame, and so I looked up like the Google definition, and then like she had her own definition, so I'll just go through those. So for the Google definition, it says a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. And then her version or her definition is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love, belonging, and connection. And
Mm.
she's out the gate preaching.
Damn.
And I definitely like that better than the Google version, because I feel like the Google version like places blame on the self, and the other one like her definition is more like a perspective of like just like you have that like negative perspective ingrained into you type of thing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. We're taught to be ashamed.
Right. Right.
Shame doesn't come out of nowhere. We're not born filled with shame. We're dumped with things to feel ashamed about.
Right, exactly. Like it's all just one big projection onto us. And like I don't know, I was thinking about it like cuz I'm like, do you think, I don't know if we want to start with this, but it's just a question I'm going to pose out there. Like, do you think that there's good shame, like, and there's like should be some things that we shame? And then so I'm just putting that out there. And then
I think shame. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. We can tackle it now, just to start.
I feel like shame is inherently negative because shame is a feeling that causes you to distance yourself from others. Or it causes either physically or emotionally distance yourself from others because of shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's good shame. I think if any good shame is just embarrassment. Embarrassment can be good.
Okay.
But shame is a sharper emotion because shame hits a little bit deeper in my mind, where it's like shame will pivot your decisions in terms of like I think shame is more visceral. Shame is more visceral than embarrassment.
And I think it's more like you with shame, you look at it as a character flaw, like a personality or like human flaw in you. You know what I mean? So like back to like the TED Talk that I was talking about. So she said that like we think about shame as like shame means I am bad, versus guilt, which is like I did something bad. So I'm like looking at it like that. You know?
Oh, yes.
Because I'm like, you can definitely be guilty about something, and guilty is like a very strong emotion as well. But shame is like something that you think like, okay, in your mind, you're like, this is who you define yourself as that. You know what I mean? You define yourself with the shame.
Yes. I feel like there's a very common like queer feeling of just like shame, like the outside can teach you that you are bad,
right?
Versus the fortunate few who were like exposed to that, like with very immediate distance from them, that they're not taught shame, and you see that difference in people living, or just people just still being closeted. You know? Because it's all built. Built in shame. It's all built in shame, and then again, you're either physically distancing yourself from others, or you're emotionally compartmentalizing yourself.
And like building walls up.
Yes.
But it's like even like those walls are also being built in yourself too, because then it's like you're looking at yourself as like this bad thing that can't really be reformed, and so you like kind of just take that in. But
Yes.
I don't know. So then also in the video, she was talking about like the main thing to like maybe like not the antonym, but sort of like antonym of like shame is vulnerability. And so she was saying that
Mm-hmm.
like vulnerability is not like weakness, it's the most accurate measure of courage. So with shame we have like fear, and yeah, shame is fear pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's fear of being exposed, of like what others will think, and like just all this
Fear of
overthinking.
judgment.
Yeah, and anxiety. But then it's like, okay, so that's what you hold for yourself, but then it's also like there is mass shaming too, because then it's like, and then especially living here, they try to swear up and down that this is like freedom land country, but it's like we're Christian as hell. Puritan, like
Mm-hmm.
as a
Mm-hmm.
society, like they fucking, it's Christian as fuck. Like let's be for real. So anything that it's Christian, it's Puritan, it's like, or that's what they try to sell it as. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
like it's so contradicting that it's like crazy. And I feel like it also makes money off of our shame, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like
That's
they
how
put all these,
advertising gets you.
yeah, they put all these things in place to also bank off of us not liking ourselves and fearing each other too. And then it's just wild. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
back to the vulnerability. But like being vulnerable is like the not, you know, it's not cure, but it's like it's a surefire way to like combat shame. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're just open and honest for real, like what could really touch you, because it's like you already put it out there. Um
Yes.
so I don't know, what are your thoughts so far?
Yes, I agree though. Because I think a lot of how people, the way that people, a lot of the way that people embracing who they are is combating that shame by being vulnerable in that way. So
Mm-hmm.
like confiding in somebody, fear that you might have, or just like even writing, at least like journaling, like projecting your feelings in a physical form,
Mm-hmm.
either either audibly or writing, however you need to express it. But then you are taking what feels like, because shame, I think, is something that shame I think feels like a sort of, it's like a 20-pound vest. It's like a very heavy vest
Mm-hmm.
that like you carry on you. But I think talking about it, it reduces the weight of the weight
Right.
of that vest, pound by pound by pound, the more that like you keep it off of you and like
Mm-hmm.
put it out there, what those senses of shame are.
Yeah.
Because then you're not carry at that point you're not carrying it alone. Because I think shame, going back to I guess the whole distancing part, shame also makes you feel very can make people feel very lonely, I think,
Yeah.
in ways,
And isolated for sure.
because they
Which
don't
is
feel
like
like
goes
there's.
back to fucking
Mm-hmm.
that's why they push individualism too.
Mm-hmm.
Like continue.
Which has it's in just individual, just have being individualized does have its benefits, but this is also, I guess, the detriment, because then there does become these big like islands just like floating
Yeah.
around. And
Right.
people not knowing that there's another island like right there that has like the same
And
you know
I
problems or
feel
same
like,
senses of shame that you do.
yeah, and I feel like now I'm like feeling like shame, and like just having that weight of shame just puts you into centering yourself so much, just like out of like that feeling of just heaviness, that it also
Mm-hmm.
like ties into like ego, because then it's like you're going out and you're like, oh, like these people are looking at me, and like these people are like, you know what I mean, and just like hyper aware of self, and then it's just like it does
Mm-hmm.
weird things to the ego, even in like in a negative, I don't know, in a negative way. I don't know if that's what I really want to say. But like, yeah, it just like you just start focusing on yourself, and then you don't see what's going on around you, and that like everyone is going through it. And then it's like that's why we don't want to talk about shame too. And it's like this all just big like soup of bullshit, because it's like, well, we don't do this because of this, but then if we did do this, then it could help with
Mm-hmm.
this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I don't know. Um, I feel like yeah, just like starting to talk about like it's not bad to talk about these things, and it's not. I don't think also another thing that I feel like people try to do it through humor and like self deprecation is like a way of like expressing shame. But I've been seeing like lately like people kind of being like, oh, I hate like self deprecating people and like all this other stuff and blah blah blah. But it's like, I mean, if that's their way to like get it out, I mean, you got to get it out, you know, because it's not comfy to
Mm.
talk about feeling like shit. You know what I mean? It's not
Mm-hmm.
comfy holding that for someone else when also you're feeling that, but I don't know. It's necessary.
Hmm. I think that is an interesting point, because I guess for those people that are self-deprecating, maybe in a way it's like, and I guess this. Hmm.
Because I mean, there are people that are self-deprecating that are looking for like verbal validation from others, or just like, you know, trying to get that. But I'm like, I mean, is that so bad?
I think in those ways it can be tricky. I think
Mm-hmm.
the way I was thinking about it in terms of self-deprecation being a way of trying to shed off shame, I think that's like a hmm. I think of it kind of like they're using the tools, like that's just one of the tools that they, that's the extent of what tools that they have
Right. And
in
I
their
think that's
repertoire
also
in order to
one,
deal with that.
yeah, and I think that's one that's been like sort of recently acceptable, because like think about like what we grew up on, like the comedy and stuff that we grew up on. There's a lot of, sorry, that was my speaker. But I didn't do anything, it just started talking. But just like think about the like humor that we grew up with. There were so many like comedians
Mm-hmm.
and like just shows and characters and stuff that were very self-deprecating, and I feel like that was like a way for people to get their shit off.
Right.
And like that's how you use humor to deal with things and cope, because like I don't know. I was just gonna get into the whole thing I've heard about comedians being the most depressed, but that's kind of off topic. So, but yeah, like that's just their way. And then so like growing up with that, and then it's like having this kind of like it pays to be negative, like sort of culture, um, and to not really talk about stuff, but talk about it. Um, it's just like a tool that has been accepted recently, or in recent years, but now more modern. I don't know, people are kind of getting over it. But it's like, okay, so how do we move from that one tool that was working for a little bit, or people like heard for a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
like they laughed because they probably resonated with it? How do we turn that into talking about it even more now, you know?
Mm.
Because I feel like comedy is like the one thing that like people will like be accepting of.
Because in a way, I think that's tricky. I feel like in a way, comedy can go outwards in a way like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. Hmm.
Just something to put out there. But I was also gonna mention that she said she did say in the TED talk that shame derives its power from being unspeakable, like we were talking about.
Mm.
Um, and then she said like a lot of the reason why we don't talk about it is because the root of where we're from in America, you can't talk about race or privilege without shame. For real, people on both sides will feel it, like
Mm.
on both
See,
sides.
but then that goes, and that still goes back to what I was saying. How like
Mm-hmm.
it distances yourself from people by
Right.
carrying that sense of shame versus just putting it out there. and being able to move through that context,
Right.
or knowing that that's there for everybody to see and recognize, accept.
Exactly. And I feel like the issue comes in when people shut themselves off to it instead of like trying to like just hear, you know what I mean? And maybe like just take what resonates and cast out what doesn't, but you don't have to get defensive about it, you know what I mean? Because I think what we struggle with is like my experience does not equate to someone else's experience. And that's where like, and that's what I mean by that ego. Like you're carrying all this shame and all this like stuff, and like the things that you're experiencing, it clouds everything around you. That you can't even
Mm-hmm.
see like this person is a whole different human being from a whole different place of life that like can feel this same feeling but from different ways. Like you can't even see
Yes.
that because there's no capacity in your mind because you're carrying so much inner turmoil and hate to see someone else.
Yes. Because I think that does contextualize it though too, because then it still goes back to just like everybody's going through their own shit, and everybody's carrying their own shames. That's also clouding their vision. So your shame isn't always going to be seen by another person who's looking for another sense of shame,
Right.
or avoiding another sense of shame.
That's true. And then I also feel like in ways there is like I don't know, because everybody has their own like privileges and their own little like things, like when you are growing up in this fucking world that we live in, and it's like you feel like you have all these problems and you have like all these things that you're feeling, but then you look at somebody else and like how they got it and you're like, damn, like I had compared to them, which is like comparison, but compared to them, it's like I shouldn't even be feeling this way. So then you feel ashamed for that too, because it's like, well, I have it better than this person, so why do I feel like this way, But then I think like people flip it, instead of like that shame turns into, oh, I'm better than you, because that's how they can cope with it.
The person who has shame is also saying they're better than that other person.
Like I feel like sometimes it can turn into that, like it can flip into that, because you feel kind of like ashamed for like the privileges you're afforded, but then you're also like, but then that turned into, well, that's why we're fed messages like, well, you're owed this and you're entitled to this, so you don't question it. But you don't question it, but you still feel it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm very high.
Me too.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I'm hoping this is making sense.
Let's hope the listeners, it makes sense to them too.
Deadass. But something that she also said is that shame is pretty much the critic that we see pointing and laughing at us.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And I think for some people that critic has a very specific name or voice.
Mm-hmm.
And they can trace where that voice or name came from. Like it,
right.
For some people, it's their own inner voice. For other people, I think it's somebody familiar to them. It's somebody close to them.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely see that.
And they don't even know.
For a lot of people, it will probably be their parents.
Yes.
For real. And that's some just people, like a whole other shit, Especially as like we were saying, like being queer, like all the messages that you get of just your existence is wrong. And so it's like, that's not something that you feel, but that's like a projected one. And it's like, I mean, I don't care if people are pointing and laughing at me in that sense, but it's also like, damn, I can't even walk down the street hand in hand with this person in certain areas because of other people's shit.
Right. because of they're passing their shame on.
Right. And the
They
shame
try to
that
make
they
you
that
feel
others project is that they can't be themselves fully, even if they're not queer. Because I feel like even just embracing who you are, like in a full free way outside of norms,
mm-hmm.
in a way could be determined as queer. Like that's queer culture. You know what I mean?
Anything, any alternative form of living,
Yes.
and yeah,
And it could be
outside
like
of
because like it's such a small rigid box that they try to put it in as like what living is supposed to be. Like it makes
right,
anything like it's
everything
so
is queer.
vast.
So much shit is
Mm-hmm.
queer,
It could.
and they're all threats.
And it's so wild because like how do you think excuse me, how do you think billions of people can fit into a small box? It just never made sense to me.
Because for some people, but for some people, it's because their world is that in that box, or they only know people within that box.
Mm-hmm.
They've only been in that box, so they don't know what's
Mm-hmm.
beyond it.
Mm-hmm.
Like people born in the suburbs that never seen in urban McDonald's, you know. Same
Yeah.
shit. It's like then they're like, oh my god, it's so different. It's so
Right.
fascinating.
That's not my. There's people like really still in this on this planet today that's like, oh my god, like you have tattoos, like, bruh, I thought we was way past this,
That's actually very surprising.
right? But there's like people I've heard like they say like, oh, they didn't want to show their parents a tattoo because they're like, oh, she'll probably kick me out type shit,
That's a lot.
right?
That is a lot.
To be in 2023, it's crazy.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
But okay. So just to wrap up that video, so she has established this like thing or this type of theory called shame resilience theory or SRT. So she was saying that there is a continuum like between shame and empathy, and then there's like some like a bridge in between the middle. So the way to get away from shame is to embrace empathy more and more. Are you calculating that?
How though?
How? Let's see. Let's
Yeah.
go back. She had a little list. I'll pull it up. I should have had it on deck. My bad.
Mm.
Okay, so on the side of shame, the like feelings underneath it are fear, blame, and disconnection. And then on the other side of empathy is courage, compassion, and connection. So she's saying that we should develop or we can learn and develop the following. Hold on. So through this, we can learn and develop the capacity to recognize our experiences of shame, the ability to move through shame constructively, maintaining authenticity and growing from our experiences. And then the last point is stronger, more meaningful connections with people in our lives. Let's see. So she's saying empathy is central. We need to hear and feel someone saying, I get it. I felt the same way. What you're feeling is normal and it's okay. I understand what you're going through. And according to the SRT, um, empathetic words must be backed up by the listener being fully engaged and present when the speaker is telling a story. So I guess it's just really listening to each other and just like giving people words of validation. Like, I don't know, it's not bad to want to be validated by someone and just know that like you are heard, you're seen. You know what I mean?
Yes, very much. I think for some people, like they live their life. I think because of shame, they live their life. for some people, they can live their lives craving that in different ways. They try
Mm-hmm.
to pursue that in other ways that aren't necessarily with that word. If they're not going to hear those words of validation, they're going to try to pursue those in other ways because of that
Mm-hmm.
sense of shame. Which I guess, going back to what you're saying before, that could potentially be a positive form of shame, but it's still like a positive symptom versus
Mm-hmm.
a positive result. If that makes sense.
And I guess what I meant by like good shame is like, do we think that as a society we shame people out of certain behaviors in a good way? You know what I mean? But I don't know if shame would be the right like word, because I'm
I
like,
think,
people be wilding out.
yeah,
So
I think I guess that gets tricky though, because then I think of bathing, right? Because like if somebody
Mhm.
doesn't bathe, but I guess shame sounds distancing or it sounds more harsh. Embarrassing somebody because they don't bathe, that's something else. Because it's like
But
you really
embarrassment can
came in this
cause
house.
shame.
What?
Embarrassment can cause shame though.
I think embarrassment can cause shame, but I think that depends on how it's presented. So like if you try to embarrass somebody in I don't know, in a positive. I think it's just the motivation. I think how you embarrass somebody can either be positive or negative. If it is negative, it could turn into shame. If it's positive,
Mhm.
it turns into just an adjustment in behavior that's like more momentary. It's like a momentary like pivot versus
Mhm.
a long-term weight that you're carrying.
So growing up within, the niggers,
Mm.
you think that like roasting is a part of like positive shame or negative shame?
Ooh.
Because I'm like, I mean,
I think it's if it's like roasting, but I still wouldn't say shame. I would say embarrassment. I would say positive
mhm.
or negative embarrassment. Like because
But
again,
it
shame is.
depends on
I don't
the
think.
person's capacity, especially a kid, because that's gonna stick with you.
Oh wait, so that's different. So wait, so are you saying like roasting a kid as another kid? Is
Yeah,
that a form of
we
positive or
don't really
negative?
roast as much now as back then.
Right. I think it. Hmm. I think it's like two factors. I think it's like who said. I think it's who roasts you, and it's also is what they're roasting you the first time you've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for kids, if it's the first time, like I think, and this is how it turns into shame. I think it turns into shame if it's like something they've already heard once before from somebody else, and then hearing it
Yeah,
from an external party.
and just
That's when it
validates
like
it. Yeah.
yes, that validates it in a negative way that it turns into shame. Where like if it's just a kid roasting another kid saying, "Why your breath always stink in the morning?" Maybe they're gonna think for a moment and be like, "Damn, my breath really stinks in the morning. Let me let me
Apparently.
brush let me brush my teeth so I don't hear this again."
Yeah.
I think that's more positive embarrassment. Like your embarrassment, but you're gonna change it like in a better way that doesn't carry you
It's
so much.
character growth. It's character growth.
Yes, it's like it's smaller steps. It's like maybe that's the thing. It's like if shame, let's say shame distances yourself emotionally from people like 10 feet distance,
Hmm.
embarrassment will distance you them by like maybe like 1 or 2 feet.
Hmm.
But then you're always able to bounce back from that 1 or 2 feet from that moment versus like shame, which feels like such harder to try to get back because you're distancing yourself so
Right.
far
Because
from that
then you think
person.
it's like it's a thing that's wrong with you, not like, oh, let me fix this. It's more like, oh, this is like, I can't. I gotta do deep dive for this one.
Right. It seems like something you can't fix or
Right.
something that doesn't have as quick of a solution as your breath stinks. It's true though.
And,
That'd be the
Okay.
biggest crime.
That's, yo, that ass my sister used to tell me that when we was in church. I wanted to fight her. Like, your breath stinks. And I'll be like, and like, bitch, I brush my teeth. Get the fuck.
But it just makes you second guess yourself too in that moment. You're like, well, you know what, bitch?
It's like, nah. Because nobody else ever said this, bitch. It's just you. You're a hating ass bitch.
Right. There was no reason you had to add that commentary. That was not productive. Oh my God. But see, in that moment, you lived another day. No problem.
Ready to fight.
Versus like, now imagine it was like your crush, right? Your crush comes up to you and it's just like, I'm so sorry, your breath stinks.
Or don't even say words, they face is just like
yes.
Yo.
Yes. Very much. That's where shame blossoms. That's where shame plants its seed and like just like twirls its vines over you.
Yeah. Stick
So you're
little
just trapped.
thorns.
Very much.
Okay, so basically they want us or are telling us that we should be more vulnerable. Oh, and then so here are the 4 elements of shame resilience. Recognizing shame and understanding the triggers, practicing critical awareness, reaching out, and speaking shame. So I can just read that, the speaking shame part. When we feel shame, we must learn to ask for what we need. Failing to speak, keeping it secret, and experiencing judgment are all fanning the flame. After all, when we can't find the right words or don't have the right opportunity and audience, we are left alone with our fears. We shut down and accept our lot. Shame is a trap. We often fail to recognize as we enter or while in it, taken by surprise. We may not be sure how we got there or how to get out. The 4 elements can help us become more aware of, better at avoiding, and more empowered to escape it. So again, that is recognizing it and its triggers, practicing critical awareness, reaching out, and speaking shame.
Gotta talk. Gotta open your mouth.
I know, and that be the bullshit.
Yeah,
because that's like
the
last thing you want to do too.
Right, and that always seems like the hardest part, like just actually saying it and putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially those early. I think it's like those early shames, like your first senses of shame. They feel the hardest to detach from because you carried. That's like the vest you've been carrying for so long. It feels so familiar that like putting it out there must be like terrifying. Of like what the
Do you think it's easier when you're younger or older to speak it?
I think it's always going to be easier when you're younger because you'll have a longer span of your life where you don't feel that shame and you're able to recover. You have less years that you're recovering from versus when you're older. Like older, I think for certain scenarios you do get new context. Like I would think you would get like more context for like why the shame exists, but I also think about it at the other end where they've learned to sympathize with their shame enough that they could maneuver through shame and they know it's always there. It's like a vest that they now decorated and like styled up.
Yeah.
And they're making it work for them for that long. Like think about all of these, like if we think about, let me not say all of these. If we think about DL culture, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that like the fact that
is pure
it's like
shame
becoming, but also like it's becoming like a movement now. Like people will have it in their bios, but like have their pictures up and stuff. I'm like,
That's
how are you
weird.
DL but you're out in the open? Like,
That's
it's
very
very,
weird.
yeah. So
Very,
I'm like,
that's
it's
very
interesting.
odd.
It's been turning. I think it's turning into culture. Maybe I'm wilding, but I've definitely seen like on Twitter, like they be having their faces, but in the ad it's DL something. I'm like, no.
Maybe it's not their face. Maybe it's who they want
Oh,
you to think they're fucking.
oh. I mean, that could always be the case too.
Or they're like
Mhm.
it's their profile pic it's just a mood board of like what their actual face is. It's like my face is a little this and it's a little that. It's
Not the AI generator.
yeah, and then you meet and it's none of that. Like,
Dang.
yo, that's those people should be ashamed.
Yeah, catfishers should probably no. I feel like they already feel ashamed. That's why they're doing it. But
mm,
I don't
yes,
know, cause I'm like I really be like in 2023, like who really cares about you being gay? But like, there's people, like I said, like the person with the tattoos, like people really care, and I'm
there's still
like,
mad. So brief story time. So I had this I got a message on one of these apps. I think it was like Connect or something, and it was this kid. It was this kid I knew. Not saying his name in case he listens. Um,
hey,
hey, hey, says, um, he was in like he grew up in the church.
mm-hmm.
OD, and I used to have art classes with him, and he from that time we all knew he was we all knew we knew he was
Not
popping.
mm, limp wrist girly.
We knew he liked some sugar in his coffee.
You was giving choir director.
Very much, very much. Um, knew all the housewives, knew all the Love and Hip Hops.
I'm dead.
I was like, all right, whatever. We knew. Swore up and down, swore up and down. He's like, nah, I'm looking for a girl. You know, da, da, da. I'm sure you'll picture him later. But he did all that. And yeah, swearing up and down. He's like, yeah, no, I'm looking for a girl. He messaged, he sent straight, no, not even long enough for a message, but just like straight, news, whatever. I was like,
Just out of the blue.
out of the blue, out of the blue. And then I checked the profile, and it's a whole like thing about just like giving, like, it was like giving, I don't know. It was just giving guys another go or whatever like that. It was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna give it a shot or whatever. And I was like, this feels very like dipping a toe, like trying to dip a toe.
Ah, yes, the
When it's like,
bicurious, the bicurious.
yeah, yes, but then that's why it's so tricky. Maybe I should.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
We should do a bicurious episode. I don't know.
the bi-curious versus the bisexual versus
Oh,
the pansexual.
oh,
Oh, all in a death cage match with each other.
dead ass.
Who wins?
All topless, like
All topless, greased up.
sumo skirts.
Yes, that'd be so good. I'd watch that.
Dead ass.
Yes, but yes, when I see stuff like that, when I think of like people specifically that like grew up very much in the church, but like they built up this whole persona,
Mm-hmm.
or like they live in a bigger distance because of that. I feel
Yeah.
like that's rooted in shame, but it's in shame. It's shame where I feel like in a way you have found good things within that shame.
Mm-hmm.
Within that sense of shame, you still have found a sense of purpose as well for some people, or they did find some connection with that. But it's
Yeah.
still knowing that for some people you're carrying those great moments, but you're with shame as the foundation of all of it.
Mm-hmm. And
Which
then
gets
I think
becomes
that
very
like
unfortunate.
kind of the sad, I guess, parts about that is when you start bringing like other people and like then children into that too. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
then that also you're gonna, if you're feeling that toward yourself, that repression, that shame, like I feel like repression and shame are just like neck and neck. Like those are homegirls. Like they
I feel
are,
like people repress because of shame, though. Like it
yeah.
starts at shame. Repression is an action. It's a symptom of shame.
It's the little sister, but
Mm.
it's like then and it's like you start building a whole, because it's like it's not even like a, I don't know, is it a whole life, but it's like fake. Like you're building this whole like
Yeah.
persona and starting
Yes.
families and starting like things off of this, and then it's like
Off an
that's where it's like,
obligation.
right, and that's off of obligate, and that's what it is. Like it's like, okay, they're trying to sell us that we are obligated in this country to have a nice, well, the white picket fence is not even that no more. It's like a mansion with minimalist minimalist furniture, and the standard fucking two parent house with kids. And I'm like, bro, like the only thing that changed in that vision from the 50s is the fucking house. And it's like, you lucky if you even got a house at this point, because who the fuck is affording a house right now?
Mm-hmm.
But like they trying to sell us all that, and like, and then like out of just obligation, like it makes no sense. How is everyone going to fit into that?
People, but I think that's the problem. When people are fed that and they're fed this dream that involves shame with achieving it, they're focused on the dream, or they're focused
Yeah.
very much on like what the goal or what the achievement is, or what the prize would be,
Mm-hmm.
and believing that they can carry shame through that,
Mm-hmm.
or feeling like it's okay to sacrifice a part of themselves to reach that goal,
Mm-hmm.
when you shouldn't necessarily have to do that.
Right. I feel like the main thing in this being a person thing is to unlock all the parts of yourself and live in that, because otherwise what is the point? Like you're living your life for someone else. But then again, I guess it's like you were brought to this life by someone else. You didn't necessarily choose. So I guess living, of course, I don't know. That's a whole different high ass conversation. But I'm just like, I feel like if there's one thing that you owe to yourself is to embrace who you are. Because literally, like, if they're gonna sell you that like you're all you got, then you really at least should get to the root of that.
Some people are scared of that, though. They don't
Yeah,
want to face who they are, because they don't even. Some people don't know who they are because they've just lived through. They just know shame,
that's true. That's
so
true.
they haven't even been able to face that or get to the root of that, because all they know is shame.
Yeah.
And that gets unfortunate, but then some people break out of it, and then they start at glory holes or some shit, and branch out
Glory.
from there.
Oh my
They
god.
branch
Yeah,
they
but
branch out from
okay, so glory holes and self deprecation are the ways of the that we express.
that's the spectrum of how people can deal with shame. You can either be self-deprecating, you can go to a glory hole,
Hmm.
maybe you go to a chat room or something like
Oh
that,
my
and you
gosh.
start up some mess.
Yes.
There's multiple modalities.
Catfishing.
Catfishing, people be doing the wild, but they're not all valid, but your feelings are.
Yes.
The execution is not.
And that's basically it.
Yes. Ah, how unfortunate.
Okay.
Shame, shame,
Um
shame. Shame on you.
I think that's a good place to stop, you think? Anything else to add?
Yeah. But yes,
Um,
that's enough. That's enough.
okay, so we're gonna move on to recommendations. And you wanna start? Or you want me to start?
Um, you start.
Okay. So for I don't know even remember what we usually start with, but I will start with a show. So a show I just watched recently. I've been watching it for a while, but I've been like just like here and there episodes on my phone, and then I just like kind of got really. I just started binging it randomly. HBO Search Party. That show is wild. It went
What is it
someplace that
about?
I did not know it was gonna go. So basically, so it stars Elia Shawkat, and like she's my gay crush, you know. She's one of my actress gay crushes. Um, and so she is like this like mid 20s, New York based, just recently graduated millennial, I guess. And one girl that she's living with her boyfriend, and she's just kind of bored with life and like directionless. So this girl she went to college with, ends up being missing, and so she's like, I just have a bad feeling about this, and then she just like starts trying to figure out the mystery. So then she finds this guy who says like he's the PI for the family, and is like help. So they like band together and like try to find her. So then they end up hooking up, and he's like older or whatever, has a daughter and everything. But he starts getting like weird after they hook up, and she's still with her boyfriend, like they're living together and everything. So they go to find the girl. They find out a lead that she's in Montreal, so they go to Montreal to go find her. The PI like stalks her there. They find out that he was never hired by the family. He just lied about that. And then so he comes to the house and like kind of presses her when the boyfriend's there, and he's like getting like kind of like aggressive or whatever. So I forget how it happened because there's been like so much that happened in the show. But she ends up tasing him, and he falls over, busts his head on the counter. He died, and then like they think he dies. Then they're like, you know that thing in TV shows where like take a moment or whatever. Then he comes up and like starts choking her or whatever. So the boyfriend comes out, bashes his head in. He's dead for real.
Oh, Sam killed Lila type shit.
Pretty much, pretty much.
West killed Sam.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly that. So they end up like then there's their other two friends. So the boyfriend's name, I forgot his name, but her best friend's name is Portia, and then her best friend's name is Elliot. So then Portia and Elliot get into it because they're all at the house, and they end up burying the guy in a suitcase, whatever. And then so that's basically how the show starts. That's like the first season, and then from there it just goes on to like crazy. So then they have like, I don't want to tell the whole thing, but end up like obviously they get caught because these niggas are dumb. Like the way they moved was just dumb. Then getting caught, she goes viral for the case, and then like just craziness ensues after that. Like it's actually pretty good. I'm on the last season now. I haven't finished it yet, but it
Okay.
like I was like more interested in that. I just started it as like kind of like a background thing, but it gets pretty good. Um, so then for music, I have ooh, 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 ooh. There's like two I want to do. Um, but I'm gonna first start with, you already know, like it's been pretty much stated that I'm an Ice Spice stan at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So she dropped her little EP. It's called Like question mark. And so the song I'm gonna say for that is Acting a Smoochie. And that song has been on repeat for a little minute. It's so cute, like a little Jersey club bop, like it's mad cute.
Mm.
And then the second one is Me First by Carifo. Um, Basically, she's like, bitch, this is a year of me first. And you already know that this is how it's gonna go. Just give me head and then skirt. Like
Mm.
it's fire. Um, so I did TV show, I did song, and then for movie, hmm, I've been watching movies, but nothing like really to write home about. Let's see. I'm trying to think of. Oh, there's one. If you have Tubi, watch. If you like campy '80s movies, Frankenhooker. I like that one. It was cute.
Mm.
I might do that for, and it's like a little body horror type 80s thing. It was interesting.
Sounds cool.
But your turn.
Okay. I'm gonna start with a song. It's actually on SoundCloud. It's this mix by Sango. It's a cross mix between uh, uh, Beyonce's "Break My Soul" and Stardust's "The Music Sounds Better with You." It's mixed by
Mm,
Sango.
I
It's
love
so fire.
Sango. I
It's
love
so
Sango.
fire, so fire. Like that's been on repeat for
Yeah.
ever since I found it. Since the day he released it. Like 5 stars. 5 stars. Um so yeah, that's a vibe. TV TV is definitely mm, TV is definitely just season 11 of Drag Race. I think
Hmm.
so far that seems like one of the messier seasons. The more spicy seasons out of all of them I've seen so far. Fire looks, all that. I know who wins, but I'm gonna act like I don't. Uh, just for the drama.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, and then movie. Oh, this movie was so good. I just watched it on Friday. War of the Roses
Mm.
by it's came out I believe, early '90s, I believe.
Hmm.
Danny DeVito's in it. Kathleen Turner's in it. It's so it's so good. So it's about this boy meets girl. They fall in love. They get married, um, and it just goes through their life of them like meeting, getting married, having kids, their kids growing up, and you just start seeing their marriage fall apart, or like
Hmm.
their like see them like not want to be in love with each other anymore and like want a divorce.
Yeah.
And then it's just like them showing each other in this big mansion that they bought, that they like raised a family in, how much they hate each other. And it's so chaotic, it's so funny, and at moments it's like it's just the right amount of ridiculous,
Hmm.
like to appreciate the to like keep you in it and still like remember how like silly the movie is. It's really really good, really really funny,
Yes.
very
I'll check
ridiculous.
it out.
It's on HBO. It's fire. War of the Roses.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So another episode down. Period. Um, like I was telling things too, we might get rid of the outro. So I'll see how I feel later, but it might be going. Bye, Kelly Bow. We still love you though.
Yep.
Um, all right. So see y'all next time.
Bye
Bye.
bye.